Hello, Degrassi fans, and welcome to the Degrassi Kid podcast, where each week we break down the history and impact of our favorite teen TV show. I'm Jocelyn, and this week we're joined by a special guest. We're joined by Alexa Katchinska. Alexa reached out to me on Patreon through the producer tier and said, "Hey, what if we did a podcast about Degrassi's unhealthy relationship dynamics?" And I said, "Hell yeah, let's do it." Alexa is a relationship coach who often goes live on TikTok, and we wanted to explore our favorite relationships on Degrassi. Now, of course, we're talking about teenagers on a fictional show. Sometimes they're written in an unhealthy way for drama, or they're just too young to understand how to show up in a healthy way in a relationship. But for Alexa and I, Degrassi is our favorite TV show, and we wanted to break down these characters as they're presented to us on the show. Of course, we'll cover the characters that you expect us to cover, like Eli and Clare, or the crazy relationship dynamic between Craig, Manny, and Ashley, but we'll also provide two couples that are our hot takes, ones that the fandoms may love and idolize that we think might be a little more on the unhealthy side. So today, we're sitting down and breaking down couples from Degrassi: The Next Generation with Alexa Katchinska. Alexa, welcome to the Degrassi Kid podcast. I'm so excited to have you.
Jocelyn, thank you so much for having me. It's a true honor.
I feel so excited. I've been following you on TikTok forever. I see your live streams pop up on my page all the time. I kind of feel like I'm interviewing a TikTok celebrity right now.
Okay, now you're just flattering me. I'm the one
And
who's flattered to be here.
oh, I was so excited. So for the fans who are listening, how is Alexa here? Well, Alexa signed up as a producer on my Patreon tier and reached out to me about exploring a specific topic. Alexa, what was that topic you wanted to explore?
I wanted to discuss relationship dynamics, not specifically just couples, but actually the relationship with yourself. I feel like exploring the relationship with yourself and understanding yourself more can help you achieve healthier relationships down the line. So I thought that'd be an interesting topic
I'm
to
excited
discuss
about
with
it.
Degrassi.
Yeah, and I'm talking to an expert here. Can you introduce yourself a little bit and tell us more about you?
Yes, my name is Alexa Katchinska. I always feel like I have to pronounce my last name because people do ask, so I figured I would tell you. I am a relationship coach. I specialize in relationships with yourself, healing that part of you so you can have the healthiest, most pure, and just intentional relationships possible. So I help people find that part of them so they can explore the world as their most authentic selves.
I love that. It's so beautiful. And how did you get
Thank
into
you.
Degrassi?
Okay, so it's not the most creative story you've had on your podcast, and I've listened to all of your episodes, but I will say all of them. But I will say I started at 13. I was at a sleepover with a friend, and the next morning we were watching TV, like on her tiny little TV in her kitchen, and she's like, "Hey, what do you want to watch?" And I'm like, "Let's do Disney Channel." And she's like, and she's like going through the guide. She's like, "Have you seen Degrassi?" And I was like, "No." Like I've seen the name on the episode guide, but I had no clue what Degrassi was. So I was like, I'm down to watch it. So we watched it. It was the Hot for Teacher episode, season two,
Classic.
Hot for Teacher, classic. I remember I liked the vibe of it. That was more of a fun episode. Little did I know, because season two's got some really heavy episodes, but that was a fun one. And I remember just, JT, the spiky hair, the flame shirt was my vibe at 13. Like that was my kryptonite. So, I just kind of remember like just loving that episode. I thought the characters were entertaining. I always like down to earth coming of age stories. I always have. Stand by Me, Now and Then. I've always been a fan of the coming of age stories because I love people. So I like exploring people and their personality traits and how people interact with each other. So Degrassi was just a perfect way for me to just feel more natural, to feel like, oh, okay, this is how people interact, and this is how that works. And there's just so many avenues to explore with Degrassi. So I started at 13 years old, and I fell in love with it. I bought the DVD box sets like maybe a year later. And then I remember when season three came out, that was a huge deal because in the US, we didn't get the Manny episode. So,
Mm.
they were like putting commercials out on the end, like, oh, this is the episode that you've never seen before. So I was like, I have to get that. And then I just ended up collecting all the box sets at some point, and I just became obsessed with it. So,
Ah, I think that's a great story. I think you should be very proud of your Degrassi origins and the fact that they led you here. You should be very,
Thank
very
you.
proud of it. I
Thank
love that.
you.
Well, I think we should just dive right in. Before recording, Alexa and I talked about some standout characters, ones that I think you guys might be surprised by. But the first one is, I think, a textbook example of who you would think we would talk about on a relationship podcast, and that is Eli and Claire. Alexa, I'd love to hear your take on the relationship dynamic between Eli and Claire on Degrassi.
Oh man. Okay. Well, Eli and Claire, they're iconic. We can all agree they're iconic. They have amazing chemistry. The two actors, Aislinn Paul, Monroe Chambers, they have incredible chemistry. We can't deny that. But I think that there's a lot of toxicity there, and I think it starts from a lot of codependency on both of their parts. In season 10, I can sense that there's this need to fix each other. There's this need to, like, I felt like when I watched it, because Claire was going through something. Her parents were separating and then they were divorcing. And at that point, she was looking to latch on to somebody, and Eli was right there. And, they were saying, I love you very soon. There was just a lot of codependency. And then, then you have Eli's hoarding. So then you kind of get into the hoarding of it all. And I feel like when Eli started hoarding, that was more of an OCD thing, in my opinion. Not so much, a symptom of his future disorder with bipolar. I feel like that was more OCD related. But great storyline. I kind of wish they had explored it further. However, because they had both been through such traumatic events in their lives, Eli had Julia before. He really didn't take the time to process losing Julia. He kind of, I say, suppressed it, right? He suppressed the emotions. He didn't really work through it. And I feel like because he didn't, he is what I would call, this is what the experts would call a dismissive, actually a fearful avoidance. So he would fall more on sometimes he's really anxious and sometimes he's straight up avoidant. So whenever he's triggered into more of a, I need you type of, so like when Claire needs him, he pulls away. When she doesn't need him, he basically gravitates to her. And that's what leads to season 11, right? Season 11, you see the end of season 10, you see the infamous car crash, the first crash. And I think that was also not a manic episode. I really don't. I think that was something that had a lot more to do with his fear of abandonment, his fear of loss. So when you ask if they're healthy, I don't think so. They were extremely codependent. They didn't really have lives of their own. They kind of became a unit very quickly. And I feel like they lost the concept of who they were as people. And you notice in season 12, when they start to have their own priorities, when they start to have their own hobbies, when Eli is involved in the play and Claire's working, for, what was it,
Asher?
I forgot the name. Yes. When they had their own priorities, when they were doing their own things, they were much healthier because they weren't so codependent. They had their own lives and they had their own identities outside of each other. And in season 10, I feel like they didn't. I feel like they were very much just a unit and they were relying on each other for emotional support. And that's a lot of pressure to put on any partner. I just don't think that's healthy.
I agree. I remember watching the show actively as a teenager thinking that Degrassi's really promoting this relationship as relationship goals. They had introduced Eli and not knowing how much he was going to be loved by the fandom. And then in seeing their reaction, they kind of just latched onto that more, I had felt like. And I don't think it portrayed a healthy dynamic to teenagers who were watching the show. What do you think about the impact seeing this has on teens who are watching it?
It's a great question. I feel like it's romanticized. And I feel like a teenager is going to see this or a young adult's going to see this and feel like it's all or nothing. They either love me or they don't. And that's not how it works. But when you're that young, I think you see things more in black and white. You see them as well, if they're not doing everything with me in mind, if they're not making every single choice in life with me in mind, they think it's over. They think there's nothing left. And that's where I think the toxicity comes into play. And that's where I think teenagers can be influenced by that, thinking, okay, this is an example of love. This is what I see on TV. These are very, influential characters, very iconic characters. Their love story is what I want.
Yeah.
And we see this a lot with media in general, but I think because Degrassi's influencing the younger demographic, right? That's who it's made for. You're seeing that it's a romanticized relationship that's actually exaggerated for the screen. But younger people don't know that. They
Yeah,
don't know that.
exactly.
It's an exaggeration. Like this doesn't normally happen. A guy doesn't normally crash his hearse, into a wall. I mean, that doesn't normally happen. But I mean, are there crazy stories out there where things like that happen? Yes, but that's not what you want,
No.
right? And a lot of people think that they're the exception to the rule, and they're
Mhm.
not, unfortunately. And that's not to say you're average, but like, yes, there's just very little exceptions when it comes to things like that. So I feel like we all want to be the exception, but unfortunately, we're the rule.
Yeah, yeah, I like that. What advice overall would you give to Eli and Claire to have a healthier relationship?
I love this question too. You have good questions.
Thank you.
Okay, I would say, what season?
Ooh, maybe at the end of season 10 after that pivotal moment with Morty.
Okay, I would take them aside. Like, if I was working with Eli, I would try to find out more about him. I would say, Eli, like, what are you interested in? Tell me more about you. Tell
Mm.
me who you are. And I would sit him down and just be like, name these things for me. Tell me who you are. And I would be curious to see how much he knows about himself,
Yeah,
right? And
I
I would
think
be
he would
curious to kind of, yeah.
yeah, I
Sorry?
think he would emphasize a lot of other people like the Julia thing and
Yes,
he would talk about Claire, but I think Eli would really struggle to come up with the things that make him him outside of his relationships with other people.
exactly.
Yeah.
And that's what I would want him to do. I'd say, okay, we're going to learn more about you. And we're going to learn more about we're going to explore your fear of abandonment. Where does that come from? I know where it comes from, but I want him to say it out loud.
Yeah.
I would want you to say, hey, tell me where this comes from. You know, Julia was out of your control. Okay. And in reality, you can't control a relationship. You can't control what somebody else is going to do. So we're going to teach you I'm going to give you the tools to control like what's within your realm,
Mhm.
right? What can Eli do? What can you do for you without relying on someone else to fill that void for you?
Yeah.
And that's how you can show up as a partner. That's what I would do for him. For Claire, actually kind of similar because I mean, in the beginning in season 8, she wasn't like that. It's very interesting. I actually think that Casey really threw her off. I really
Mm.
do. I think that relationship threw her off, and her parents divorced. So, or separation, I guess. But I think because at that point in the story, I think it was a separation. But I would talk to her about like, also I'd say, what are your passions? But also I'd kind of want to know your identity. Do you still think you're Darcy's sister? Have you found who you are? Um, what are your passions in life? And also, what makes you want to save people? What makes you want to be the hero in everybody's story? Because that's what she wants to be. She wants to be the hero. So, what makes you feel like a hero outside of a relationship, right?
Oh, I
Like,
like
what
that.
brings you that joy outside of a relationship that fulfills you that still makes you feel like a hero? Because, that's not a bad thing, but Claire wants to be heard. She desperately wants to be heard and she wants to be seen. And what can she have that makes her feel heard and seen? That's why she's a writer. She wants to be heard through her voice, her narrative. So I would try to help her find those things, down the line. So that's what I would do.
I like that. I love hearing what you think. And I think, yeah, I think a lot
Thank
of
you.
Claire, like she gets steamrolled over so many times. Like Jace or Jenna swoops in and takes her ex-boyfriend Casey and her parents are getting divorced. Now her sister's gone. I feel like she's like losing such a sense of control that she's trying to find
Yes,
it through her relationships and not able to figure out who she is on her own. So I like that.
that's a good.
Anything
I
else you
think
want
your
to say?
analysis was good though.
Oh, thank you. I know I've been thinking about this a lot since we had our kind of pre-interview. I'm like, what do I think about these relationships? Any other thoughts about Eli and Claire before we move on to our next couple?
I think if they were, if they had their own priorities in life, if Claire had a way of being able to, understand that she can't control everything, and Eli had the same motive, but also I think something that stimulates him outside of Claire and gives
Mm,
him purpose, then I believe that, I mean, they would actually be pretty healthy. But the way they're depicted, I don't think so.
I agree. I agree. I think they don't know who they are outside of Eclair, and I think part of that is the writing of just like needing these two to be in constant conflict with each other to keep the show running. Well, another iconic couple who I think is not a surprise for us to talk about is Craig and Ashley. What do you think about Craig and Ashley's romantic relationship dynamic?
They're never on the same page ever. I don't think that even, from the beginning. Okay, I'll argue this. I think in season 2 they were. For the like few episodes we saw, they were. But that was before like I think anything real had cultivated. I don't think they're ever on the same page. I feel like Ashley's really into the relationship and Craig's not. And then, Craig is into the relationship and she's kind of like on her toes because she doesn't really know what's going on with him. He is experiencing at this point a manic episode.
Mm.
So I just don't feel like they're on the same page ever. And I just think Craig's a bit emotionally unavailable when he is regulated. So when he's regulated, and I don't mean in his manic state of mind, I I believe that he's just not emotionally like available.
Mm.
So, she's wanting him to say things in season 3. She wants him to tell her, I love you. He can't do it. He doesn't have the words. It's not that, first of all, I think he just doesn't take relationships that seriously at 16, but also I think he doesn't have the capacity because he didn't get it from his father, right? The example you're supposed to have, he didn't have. So I don't think he's capable of setting that. Everyone's like, oh, well, Craig's crappy in relationships. That's true. He is. And he's a perpetual cheater. I know that too. But I think that also you have to consider where it comes from. He doesn't have like he didn't have the example to set for him
Yeah,
growing up.
that makes
So
sense.
he didn't have anything to model for him. He was lucky enough to live with Joey and to have a good male figure in his life, a good figure in his life, right? Because he also lost his mother. So, I mean, I just don't think he had that capability. But them together, I just feel like they're never on the same page. I feel like I just, I don't know. There's something cringy there. Like, personally speaking, I think there's something cringy there. But, I mean, if I was to, like, analyze it, I would say not on the same page. I feel like they have trouble communicating.
Mm.
There's resentment on Ashley's side because she tries to express her love and he doesn't know how to do that. And he doesn't have the words to say, hey, Ashley, I don't have the words. I don't know how to say this to you. I'm sorry. I just don't. So he writes her that song and it fixes the problem. It's a band-aid, right?
Mm.
It's a band-aid solution because it's not addressing the issue. It's basically Craig saying, well, here you go. It was very vulnerable of him. I'm going to salute him though. He was
Yeah.
very vulnerable to sing a song because that's how he feels comfortable expressing his emotions. Um, but I feel like they never had that talk.
Mm.
And I think Craig wasn't feeling heard or seen by Ashley. Even after that, I feel like he sings the song to her and then she's just like, oh, I'm smitten. And then like 5 minutes later, he's telling Spinner like they're going to have sex. And then Ashley overreacts. But she overreacts because she already has a narrative in her brain that she doesn't feel like he loves her. So
Mm.
she's already building this up in her brain and she hasn't communicated, those feelings. So what does she do? Like she lashes out at him and he goes and cheats,
Yeah.
right?
And I'm
Because his needs aren't being met.
That makes a lot of sense. And I'm curious to hear more about your thoughts about how Manny Santos plays a role in their relationship because Craig is trying to do both relationships at the exact same time. Why do you think he's trying to do both of those things with Manny? How does she play a role in that?
I feel he goes to Manny because she's there. Like, and I mean no disrespect, it could have been anybody.
Yeah.
It could have been anyone who was smitten about him at that point in time. He wants, in his mind, like Ashley was making him feel like he was causing problems, like his dad did. His dad would be like, "Oh, Craig, you're the problem. It's always you." So when he kind of has that traumatic reminder in his brain, like, "Oh, Ashley's telling me I'm the problem." Okay, he doesn't know how to handle that. That's his deepest insecurity. Somebody basically pointing out that he doesn't show up for them.
Yeah.
So here's Manny. She's right there. And he's like, oh, but she's telling me everything I want to hear. Right. she's telling me everything I want to hear, and she's making me feel like my best self. Okay, great. And she's attractive. Here we go, right? He's not that into Manny. I mean, I just don't think he ever was. I mean, even from season 2, I don't think he was that into her for different reasons, like saying that she was like his sister or something.
That was
You know,
so crazy. I get that it was like an Easter egg because his sister is Manny's sister in real life, but then to go
like
from
yeah,
that to then getting her pregnant the next season is always baffling to me.
that like 20 episodes or something, and then okay,
It was
great,
crazy.
okay, that happened. Um, but no, I just feel like she was right there.
Yeah.
She was convenient, and that sounds really horrible, but I'm just going to be honest. I think it could have been anybody.
Yeah. I really love the connection you're making to the relationship that he had with his father, of him saying, "You're the problem," and then having that same parallel to Ashley. I think I've never noticed that in watching it before, but now that you point out that parallel, I think that makes a lot of sense. It makes me see his approach to relationships a lot differently. And I'm curious if do you think Craig and Ashley could ever work through it, or do you think they're just like two very different in how they approach relationships?
I think they're two ships passing in the night.
Mm,
I do. I think they make good friends.
yeah.
I just feel like romantically speaking, they can't seem to get on the same page. I feel like, and not to mention, it's because they don't know how to communicate. Neither of them do, right? So until they fix that, they're going to have a lot of issues being together regardless. If they can fix their communication problems, if they can, say, okay, well, I feel resentment towards you because you cheated on me, Ashley's perspective. You cheated on me. You didn't tell me you loved me. Then you cheat on me. Then you get another girl pregnant. You lied to me. The amount of betrayal,
Mm,
you know, it's most of the lying because she doesn't know what to believe after that, right? Like
yeah.
she takes him back in season 4, but I think as an audience, we could all feel it wasn't genuine or sincere.
Yeah.
I think it was familiar, and they got along really well as friends. So I
I
think they
agree.
just thought, okay, well, I'm also attracted to you. Let's do this. And I think they just did it because they wanted to. Like it was just impulsive. I don't think it was like they didn't sort anything out.
Yeah. How would you
Nothing
ever
nothing
trust
was
him again
resolved.
after that?
Nothing was literally resolved. If you think about it, they never had a talk. He wrote a song. Okay, great, good
Yeah.
deal. He put her in his band. Good deal. But nothing. They never had a discussion on screen, to our
Yeah.
knowledge, that they resolved anything. So like,
I agree.
I just don't see it.
I think they were great as musical partners, but should absolutely
Yeah,
never be in a relationship with each other ever, ever again. That's what I think.
no, I agree.
Before we move on to our next couple, any other notes you want to make about Craig and Ashley?
No,
You
they can
feel
go
good?
crash.
Good.
Please.
I like that a lot. I like that.
Thank you.
Well,
Thank you.
our next couple was one that did kind of surprise me, but I'm excited to get into them, was Spinner and Paige. I know particularly there's that whole moment where he's fighting with Craig over Manny at Paige's work, and he gets her fired, and there's a lot of turmoil that goes on during that time. What are your thoughts about Spage? Oh my God. Well, I guess I can say Spage, but I meant to say Spinner and Paige's relationship dynamic.
Oh gosh. Okay. I feel okay. Season 2, their dynamic was very different. I feel like Spinner was. I don't like to use this word, but I'm going to say it. Very obedient. It was
Mm,
almost like a mother and a child. And
mm,
I don't like to say that, but that was the vibe I got. The amount of times that she'd be like, Spinner, don't do that. Spinner, don't do that. Right? I was like, okay, that's like what you do to a kid if he's trying to touch something in a store. You're like, hey, don't touch that. Like that's the vibe that I got, right? Um, I don't know. And she was constantly having to discipline him like a kid. It was weird. And then like were they cute with the honeybee and stuff? Yeah, it's cute. Like and I think they had great chemistry. The actors have great chemistry, so it's believable and you can watch it and it's cute. But I think in season 3, I believe that's Paige's like I kind of call it her chill season, where
mm.
she's not really being Paige, if that makes sense. Like she's still Paige, but she's more chill that
Yeah.
season. So I actually believe that she was suppressing that season. That's my belief. I believe that that was the season where we don't see on screen that she's actually processing what happened to her in season 2.
Mm.
I don't believe that she's processing anything, that she's working through the emotion. So she's suppressing it. And so then we get to season 4 and the first 2 episodes. And that's when it all kind of, the honeymoon stage is officially over. And there's a different dynamic shift right after those first 2 episodes of season 4. Essentially, Paige, she's traumatized and she never worked through those emotions. So because you can tell she didn't. And the reason she didn't is because she doesn't have the coping mechanisms in place. If she had worked and processed those emotions, she would have what Fiona had with her drinking problem. She would have coping mechanisms like, hey, look at the wall, pick out 3 spots. She didn't have any of that. So you can tell she didn't really work through anything. So, when she's triggered, which of course she's going to be, like she has to go to trial and face the person who assaulted her. That is the fact that she went through trauma alone makes her so strong. Anybody who endures trauma is the strongest person in the world, because you have to imagine the strength it takes to endure trauma alone, not just surviving it, but enduring it. And so that's what I would tell her if I was her coach. I'd be like, well, you endured this. It doesn't make you a slut. It makes you somebody who was taken advantage of. It makes you somebody who wasn't respected, right? Who wasn't treated as a human, but yes, the world's going to tell you things. There's a narrative, especially in 2004, there was a narrative that if you had sex, you were a slut, and that was it. But I would tell her, no, you were someone who, yes, you showed up to the party, you wore heels, and you wanted to go upstairs with him, but in your opinion, you just wanted to hang out with him.
Yeah.
You did nothing wrong. He took advantage of you. But Sinner at this point, like she has the trial with Dean, and she loses because she has no proof, and it's devastating, right? She went through something devastating, and now she's having to relive the trauma. Yeah. But unfortunately, she doesn't have the coping mechanisms in place to deal with this. So she lashes out at Sinner. She lashes out at Hazel. She lashes out at a random girl at a party and pushes her against the wall. She's triggered. And she doesn't know how to regulate. So, and Paige is somebody who, she gets a little hostile and aggressive when she's triggered.
Yes.
And a lot of it, not even a little. She gets very hostile. But Sarah doesn't know how to handle it as a partner, right? He doesn't know how to handle it. He's trying. Like, I'll give him a pass at this point. In early season 4, he's trying to be her support. He's trying to be there for her, but he doesn't know how, right? Yeah. He cares about her, I can tell, but I think he doesn't know how to support her. He's just kind of like, well, can you just get over it? And he doesn't understand what it's like to be a girl, a woman, a young woman, in a situation where you're taken advantage of and your body's not respected.
And how do you... he doesn't... Oh, sorry. I was just going to ask, how do you think that then affects him showing up in the relationship, especially because it does take that turn of him now fighting over Manny with Craig at her job and kind of like really making fun of her and dismissing her?
I feel like after that event, when she pushes him away and she crashes his car, he resents her. And he was already building up the resentment over the summer because she didn't have sex with him. And so he was feeling like, well, you had sex with Dean. Why didn't you have sex with me? And I know that's not rational, but I believe that's what he was thinking. And, he's a teenage kid, right? But he doesn't really understand what she went through and what happened to her. He doesn't get it. So when the crash happens, when Paige crashes his car into Dean's, and that's her way of making it right for her because she doesn't have the coping mechanisms in place, essentially, he grows resentment. And then there's contempt. And I tell anybody, people ask me this, when do you know your relationship's over? When there's contempt, which means you have no respect. You don't see them as an equal. You don't see them as a partner. There's no respect. So you're not considering their feelings and what you do and if it has an impact on them. Contempt. So he's at this point where he feels like Paige owes him, where Paige is basically now the more, I would say, like he's more dominant in the relationship and she's more just kind of there, right? she's trying to make him happy. She's trying to serve him. And so the tables have turned, right? Now he's like, well, you crashed my car. You owe me money and you screwed me over. You know, he's staying with her because she's popular, because
Yeah, what
she's
she gives
status to
him.
him.
Yeah,
She gives him status. It's all about status at that point. It's, that's it, in my opinion. I think at that point, it's all about status
that makes so much
after
sense.
the beginning of season 4.
I love hearing your takes on these because I mean, I've watched Degrassi a million times. I've never done it with this kind of analytical lens about the relationships, especially the way you're able to capture it over so many seasons and how it grows and changes. I think you're incredible at this. But the question I would ask you is, do you think there's a way that Spinner and Paige could work through this to end up in a more healthy dynamic?
I do. I actually am going to say yes on this one. I'm going to say they could if Spinner, because I think Spinner has a good heart. I just think season 4 was his like resentment year and his
Yeah.
passive aggressive year. Because he was like that towards Craig too. I mean, he was just passive aggressive all over the place. He had a lot of pinned up emotions that he didn't know how to process either. And I think that he didn't know how to communicate his needs. And if he did, it was passive aggressive. So,
Yeah.
but I feel like if he could learn how to, communicate his needs and also show up for his partner, Paige, like, maybe understanding that, like, hey, how you can support her is by not slut shaming her, not pressuring her into sex. But if your needs aren't met, then don't stay in the relationship, right? Because your needs are important too. But
Yeah.
if you can take your time, be patient with her because she went through something traumatic. If you can do those things, stay by her side, reassure her that she isn't the same person, but she's growing into the person she's meant to be,
Mm.
despite the trauma she's endured. If you can be by her side and be her partner because she needs you to, and then for Paige, she has to learn how to find some coping mechanisms to handle how she takes out her aggression, right?
Mm.
And understanding that what happened to her wasn't her fault,
Yeah.
right? Because I think the root of the problem is she thinks it was.
Yeah.
And society reinforces that when she loses the trial.
Yeah.
So that's what I believe. I think they could make it work, but they have to heal on their own first.
That makes sense. And one of the interesting things about Spinner is he stays on the show until season 9, and then we see him as an adult. So he goes through several more relationships after Paige. Is there any relationship or any moments in another relationship that he has that you see a more healed version of him that is being more healthy in his relationship dynamic?
Emma, I'm just kidding. I'm just kidding. I'm kidding.
I was about
Actually,
to be
no,
like,
I
I'm gonna have
wouldn't.
to cut that out. Just kidding. Just kidding.
I just want to see your face.
You're about to get me
Um,
canceled.
Canceled. She's canceled. No, I would say, surprisingly, no. Well, I can't say Darcy. He lies a lot.
Does lie a lot. Do you think
He
Jane?
lies a Jane. Yeah, I would say with Jane, he was faithful, and that's huge for him. But I think he tries to understand where she's coming from,
Hmm.
because she was also somebody who was assaulted as a
Yeah.
child. And I think in that circumstance, he's asking her, "What can I do to support you?" Like I remember there was a scene in the car. He's like, "What can I do?" He's trying to vocalize in a healthy way. He's like, "What can I do to support you? How can I show up for you?" And Jane doesn't have the words to say, "This is what I need,"
Yeah.
because she is reliving trauma that she had buried and she didn't even realize she went through it. So
Yeah.
this is all new to her. She's in the discovery phase and she's like, I don't know how to, her inner child is activated. So she doesn't know how to be like, hey, Spinner, this is what I need. She can't do that.
Yeah. That makes a lot of
So,
sense.
yeah, but I think, yeah, with Jane, I really think he showed up for her. I do.
Yeah, I think he did both a good job of like being his own individual while still prioritizing Jane in his relationship. It wasn't too codependent. It wasn't like we have to be together all the time. They were both themselves and then they would come together and
Yeah.
make a great couple. I like that. Well, the next person we're going to talk about, my favorite character of all time, Fiona Celestine, Arabella Coyne. You can be as brutal as you
Yeah.
need to be about analyzing Fiona, but what do you think about the way
I
that
would
she
never.
approaches relationships?
Mm, I would say with Fiona, well, I can relate to her on a level because I am gay too.
Mhm.
So I had a very similar circumstance to her where I had a crush on my best friend in high school for 4 years. So totally get it. It's hard. A lot of repressed emotions. But she also went through a lot. I mean, I think, with Bobby, but also I think like the Bobby dynamic was a weird, let's be real. But it was still a traumatic event that she had to suffer, and no woman or person should ever have to suffer what she went through.
Yeah.
Um, but I feel like in the beginning stages, like I think she was an avoidant. Like,
Mm.
and I would say she leaned more towards, I'd say, fearful as well, because she and Eli, I would say, are the same attachment style. I think that's why they're friends. I would say, like, with Adam, dismissive.
Mm.
Um, Adam was everything on paper she wanted, but and physically, I would say, in her mind,
Yeah.
um, right? If we're looking from her perspective, it doesn't make it right, but from her mind, right?
Yeah.
And so, I think at that point, Adam was a good fit. And Adam made her feel beautiful and saw her as this person that she knew she could be. And
Yeah.
I feel like that helped her in a lot of ways, because she saw herself as broken. She saw herself as someone who was unlovable. So then you have Adam looking at her like she's this princess, and she's like, I'm into this.
Yeah.
But I think they were cute. I totally do, actually. And if I had written it differently, I think they would have been adorable together.
Yeah.
Um, but yeah, I think with him, she was dismissive. And
Yeah.
then with Charlie, she was anxious, which is interesting. But that's
Okay.
because I believe she was finally with a girl. And
Mm.
so she could be more of her authentic self. She could show up as herself. And so I think with Charlie, she was more anxious. She was lying, right? She said she had a scooter. She didn't have one. She was lying to kind of hang out with her and spend time with her. And she was learning how to navigate a relationship that felt legitimate to her because that was her first time being out, um, and feeling like herself. So I feel like Charlie kind of represented more of the anxiousness, right? Like there was an episode, I think, before she directs the play, like where she's calling her a bunch and showing up at her work unannounced and stuff. So I
Yeah.
kind of feel like Charlie was the anxious side, and then interestingly, Imogen was the neutral side. So I feel like at that point she had, I think, kind of became more secure. At
Yeah.
first she wasn't, but I think Imogen helped her feel that. Imogen helped her kind of heal her fear of abandonment and her fear of, you know, like well, mostly it was abandonment, let's be real. But Imogen helped her heal that part of her. So I think, and then she felt like, okay, I'm comfortable with Imogen. Where they were friends first. They
Yeah.
built that dynamic and that structure and created that trust and that foundation. I think they had one of the healthiest relationships outside of the prom episode where Imogen tries to get her to stay. But
Yeah.
outside of that, they had the healthiest dynamic. And Fiona was 100% capable of having a healthy relationship. Um, she just had to, I think, be secure enough to be alone. And
Yeah.
she had to be secure enough to find peace in herself. And I would say that, no offense, but I think the therapist she had just wasn't doing the best work with her. Um, she had fear of abandonment, and
Yeah.
her therapist was just kind of, I felt like she was dismissive towards her. And, I feel like if she had a therapist who was more understanding of where she's coming from, like, hey, I have this fear of abandonment. I have been abused. The one person I tried to trust hurt me, right? The
Yeah.
one person I tried to let in, they hurt me and they took advantage of my kindness because she is the kindest character on the show. Um,
I agree.
and she is. And I think like she has a heart of gold and so she trusts easily.
Yes.
Um, and she's a giver. So she just wants to be loved. That's how she
Yeah.
gets love. She gives. Her acts. She's acts of. I think it's just gifts, right? Like her love language is she's a gift giver.
Yeah.
Um, And that's how she does it. But in her mind, she believes. I think her narrative is that like if I if I buy their love, they'll stay,
Yeah.
right? And that's sad. And if I was working with her, I'd be like, where does that come from, right?
Yeah.
Why do you think if you buy their love, they'll stay? You
Yeah.
know, do you think that if you were just yourself and you were your kind, bubbly, you know, educated self, that they wouldn't accept you? Do you think they
Yeah.
only hang out with you because you're rich? No. I would try to give her exercises to name like what do you like about you? And
Yeah.
then I give her exercises like take yourself to the movie, take yourself shopping, try to find ways to not to spend money, but like to make it an experience that you feel like you're fulfilling yourself.
Oh,
Because
I really like that.
something about her inner child was not fulfilled. I don't know. I mean, she grew up traveling all the time. She probably didn't get a lot of attention. So,
Yeah. I feel
like,
like her parents kind of probably just also threw money at her and were like, this is what love is. You have everything you need, you're taken care of, but now I'm gonna go do my own thing. And that's how she saw love. And one thing I really liked about Fiona and Imogen is how they showed talking about things through relationships. I feel like a lot of the time on Degrassi, they have an explosive moment. There's the breakup and then it's done. But there's that moment where Fiona's being overbearing with Imogen, same way she was with Holly J. That when
yes,
Imogen is coming off the bus and she's like, I'm waiting for my girlfriend, I'm waiting, or she's coming off the bus and saying, I'm waiting for my girlfriend. And Imogen is kind of getting overwhelmed with the sudden label that they have. And then instead of it being like, okay, we're done now, it's let's talk about what this looks like and what our relationship actually is. And then I feel like they're so much healthier after that in the future episodes.
yeah, all they had to do was have that conversation. That's
Yeah.
it. And it was because Fiona was like, I'm gonna, she got Whisper Hug to play at the dance. She's like, hey, you're not gonna solve every problem with an event, okay? Let's talk about
Yeah.
this. Which I commend Imogen for because she was like, no, I see your pattern, girl. I got you. We're
Yeah.
not doing that. Let's talk about this. Let's figure out like I'm not where you are, but give me time to figure it out. But I do like you and I want to be with you, right? They were
Yeah.
putting out their feelings, being vulnerable, and saying, I'm not there yet, but give me some time.
Yeah.
And they got there. And I think Imogen helped Fiona heal. I really do. I think
Oh,
she created that secure attachment for Fiona that she really needed. And
I
Fiona
like
also found an identity outside of her relationship.
I agree. Do you think they could have been endgame if Fiona didn't move away?
Yes, I
Hell yeah.
do.
I like to hear that a lot. I love talking about Fiona. And I also one of the reasons I relate to Fiona, now maybe I'm just projecting, but I do think a lot of fans see this in Fiona, is that she may have undiagnosed BPD. Borderline personality disorder comes with a lot of intense emotions, a huge fear of abandonment, feeling like
Mm-hmm.
your world is ending all the time if somebody leaves you. And I feel like if we had have seen that dynamic of her also having a mental health issue explored, maybe that would have been something that would the audience could relate to. Because I took away that she has BPD. How do you feel about that? Do you have any experience with BPD at all?
Not personally,
Hmm.
but I would say I think it's possible. I
Yeah.
mean, the signs are there. I think the writing on the wall was there. It's interesting that they didn't explore that. I haven't had clients personally with DPD, but
Yeah.
I would think it would be interesting to see. I could kind of see that because I feel like there's a shift, right?
Yeah.
Like you can kind of see where, like, and I'm not a psychological expert. I do like to tell people I'm not a psychologist, so I will preface that. But
Yeah.
I will say, like, for my own opinion, I think she could because you can kind of see some of the anxiousness, and
Yeah.
that's not just anxious attachment, but you actually see anxiousness. Like you see her body, like the way Annie Clark plays her, she's kind of shivering a little bit in some scenes, and she's got kind of that demeanor, like where she kind of goes from anxious to more regulated, but it's so quick,
Yeah.
right? It happens so quickly to where I'm like, oh, okay, possible.
Yeah.
I never thought about that.
I think it'd be really interesting, especially because a lot of the main like mental health storylines are male led through Eli and
Yes.
Craig. We do have Maya who goes through a traumatic event and then ends up depressed. But I think it would have been really cool to see a female character explore that, and then how does that show up in her relationship with other females? I think that'd be really cool.
And I would love to see where it got triggered,
Yeah, I
because
want
I
that
think it got triggered
backstory.
with, I want to see the backstory, like what, because, I think you have it, but what event triggers it? Like,
Yeah.
for Craig, I think the school shooting triggered it. I don't think anyone's ever
Mm,
talked about it, but I think the school shooting, watching his friend get shot, might have triggered something.
yeah.
He had it, but I think it like, it's almost like it said, okay, here you go, here it is,
Yeah,
right?
like brought
It's
it to the
almost like it
surface.
expedited it, yeah, and brought
Yeah.
it to the surface.
Makes a lot of sense.
But yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. I'm
Well,
kind of
next.
wondering.
Oh no, please go
Sorry.
ahead. Finish your thought.
Oh, you're sweet. I was just gonna say I would love to have seen a DVD storyline for.
Oh,
I mean, Fiona. I think that would have
me
been good
too.
if they had explored that.
I agree. I really agree.
There was
Uh,
some breadcrumbs.
that's what I think. I think it's there. I think at the time BPD was like not a thing that was talked about at all. But I think if it was
No.
maybe a little more in the zeitgeist, maybe that's what they would have picked up on. Alexa, I we've talked about a lot of characters that I think people would expect us to talk about, especially Eli and Claire, Craig and Ashley. Is there a character dynamic that you have a hot take about?
Okay. JT and Liberty.
Oh my
I
gosh,
don't
I'm
think.
so ready.
Um. I don't think they're healthy.
Tell me why. Tell me your lore. I'm gonna say, actually, I'll say what I think, and then you can give your more educated experience. But I think and so sorry to all the JT. There's one person in my community specifically who loves JT and Liberty, and I like want to reassure you, Natalie, I love you so much. I'm so sorry. But I think we romanticize JT and Liberty because of that final episode. In that final episode, everything's perfect. He's yearning for her, and it's kind of set up like, oh my God, if he just didn't pass away, they would have been together forever. But I always think, do we forget about all of the episodes leading up to this moment where they fought all the time? They were always in conflict. They weren't on the same page. She was constantly upset with him for not being enough. I think we romanticize JT and Liberty because he passed away. That's my hot take. Now, what's your more fancy word lingo about that?
Man, I love it. Fancy words. I love it. I'm here for that. Um, okay. I agree wholeheartedly with everything you said. I think you said it very eloquently.
Oh, thank you.
But JT and Liberty. Okay. I think the dynamic when they were kids was adorable. Like, it's cute, right? I think, you got backwards cap JT, you've got Liberty in the overalls with the glasses. Like, I'm here for it, okay? It's cute. And it's part of the, hey, Liberty girlfriend, like, I'm here for it all, okay? But that's my personal take. I think it's cute. And I thought it was cute. I would say, like, when I started kind of watching this show as an adult,
Mm,
so much changed for me. All these couples I loved as a kid, Eli and Claire, JT and Liberty, I started looking at it like, okay, well, take away the, I guess, the romanticization, the rose colored glasses, okay? Take that
mhm,
away. What's happening?
mm,
And like you said, I mean, I think that Liberty's condescending towards JT. I
mhm,
mean, she starts being condescending in season 5 towards him. Season 4, like, that's the honeymoon, right?
yeah.
Um, and even then, I think, like, they don't handle their crises very well. Like, JT and Danny, like, have a fight because Danny doesn't want him to date Liberty, but then JT doesn't really talk to Liberty first. He just has a fight with Danny, and then pushes him on the ground, and he's like bleeding. But do they talk about the problem afterwards? No, they don't. They don't talk about anything. They're just kissing on a hot tub, right?
Yeah.
Um, season 5, he gets her pregnant. And so, yeah, I think she resents him for that. And as a woman, I can say this, she's hormonal, okay? She's
Yes.
pregnant. And she's keeping the secret from JT,
Mm,
lying, withholding, not communicating with your partner. She's growing resentment. And so she starts saying these passive aggressive things. She's like, okay, man child. And that's an example. She calls him a man child. She's like, do you even know what that means? Do you even know how to spell that word? Saying phrases like that to your partner is disingenuous, it's disrespectful, and your partner will eventually resent you.
mhm.
Okay? So I'm saying this to all your people. Like, if you say stuff like that to your partner, it's belittling, it's
Yes.
disrespectful. That culminates over time where your partner will feel horrible about themselves, but also they will resent you.
Yeah.
And she's, I mean, disrespectful. Like you're saying this about someone you love, that you've loved since you were 12 years old, that you've had a
Yeah.
crush on since you were 12 years old. So that's not an act of love to me. That's disrespect. I mean, that's belittling. It's condescending.
Yeah.
Um, and then they don't really communicate about their problems. Like I would actually give JT a pass here that he tries to communicate with her. He's like, hey, what can I do for you? He tries to take her to the movies. He's trying to give her a night off. Like he's like, hey, what's going on, Liberty? What am I doing wrong? Like before they
Yeah.
have the car crash, he's like, I just want to know what it is that I'm doing wrong.
Yeah.
And um, she's just kind of saying, well, you're a man child, and do you even know what that means? And you can't audition for the video announcements and all this crap. And
Yeah.
she's saying these things, and he's actually trying to have a conversation with her. It's funny she calls him immature. He's the one who's trying to have a conversation.
Trying to talk about it.
And
Yeah.
yes. And yes, does he say things without thinking? 100%. Yes. But I would argue he's the more mature one in the relationship dynamic.
Yeah.
He's trying to talk to her. He's trying to say, hey, I don't feel respected by you. That's very brave to say.
Yeah.
Especially as a guy, I think in the early aughts. He's saying, like, I feel emasculated. I feel disrespected. And she's just like dismissive.
Yeah.
And she's basically like, well, you're a man child. Like, what did he just say?
Yeah.
Right? She's not listening to him. And then they have the baby. JT sticks around. Yes, he sells drugs. I'm aware. All right. I'm aware. But that wasn't smart. Okay. We can all agree. But
Yes.
he does show up for her, and he
Yeah.
sticks by her side. Now, I would have loved to see Liberty's perspective of the story. I wish we had gotten both in a perfect world. I think it would have been so great to have her perspective, but because of the lens that we're watching, and we always keep in mind these are fictional characters, these are not real people.
Yeah.
But if I'm analyzing what I'm seeing, he's disrespectful to him.
Yeah.
So
I agree.
I just don't feel like it.
I agree. I
Yeah.
think they had so many cute moments. Like there's so many moments where I'm an active Gibberty shipper and I think they're adorable. But then I think she goes through this thing that causes so much pressure in her life. And I know it's hard, especially as teenagers, but she could
Yeah.
have relied on JT to help remove that pressure, but instead she took all of that pressure and threw it at him, which just made the situation, I think, even worse, and then escalates into drugs and then him feeling distant from her and all of these things. I'm curious, now he then gets in a relationship with Mia Jones. Do you think his relationship dynamic with Mia is different than with Liberty, and how so?
I think it's healthy.
Mm,
I mean, okay, I'm looking at just strictly the relationship dynamic,
yeah.
like seeing them together. They seem to communicate. They seem to be on the same page. There's nothing. I feel like their emotions are grounded in
Hmm.
reality. Are they playing house a little bit? Yes, but I do feel like they seem to have a good rapport. I mean, the way that they speak to each other is respectful. Now, I will say he does withhold some information from her about
Hmm.
his past in season 5. And she finds out because Liberty tells her. I don't feel like he was being dishonest. I feel like he wasn't ready to say it, right?
Yeah.
But he should have said it sooner. I do agree. He should have. But I think overall, even the way they handle conflict, she's like, "Hey, I'm not judgmental, JT," and he's like, "Oh, okay." Like he's not
Yeah.
used to that. So he's like, "Oh, I didn't know I could come to you with a problem and you wouldn't be dismissive,
Yeah.
right? That you would basically just hold a wall up to me and not let me express myself to you." Because she did. She let him express himself, and he did. And I mean, they talked it out. It wasn't a long talk, but they talked it out, and it seemed like they had a good rapport. From what I
Yeah.
now, he still had unresolved feelings for Liberty, so take that with a grain of salt. I feel like I don't know if his intentions with Mia, like getting with her, were
Yeah.
all good, but the relationship dynamic, I think it was healthy.
I agree. I definitely think JT and Mia were more healthy. I will forever hold it over JT York for going through this traumatic pregnancy with Liberty and then immediately advocating for a daycare for his new girlfriend to Liberty. I think that was so scummy of him to do it, and I will hold that
Pretty
against him
scummy.
forever.
That's
But
pretty scummy. Yeah.
in his relationship with Mia, I do think he showed up for her, and she let him show up for her without all of that
Yes.
derogatory conversation afterwards as well.
I love that. I love that take. Yes, because he just wanted Liberty to allow him to show up,
Yeah,
and she and Mia let him do it.
yeah,
And I think that's what ultimately, made him feel fulfilled for
yeah,
the remainder of his life, right?
yeah.
Because I love the characters. I love JT. I'm sad they killed him off, but I mean,
No.
ultimately, I think obviously it's something we're still talking about to this day. So the writers knew what
Yeah,
they were doing. I
yeah.
mean,
I agree. And I do like that they did give us such a kind send off between him and Liberty because I think it would have been so
yes,
much more hard to process if there was still all that animosity. So I do
yes,
appreciate that they made it such like a soft, like goodbye episode for him, for us to really feel like romanticized over their relationship. I'm glad we ended on that note.
yeah. I'll take the romanticization like over I guess them having that hostility literally in
Yeah,
the episode before about the daycare, like I would take that over the other, I guess. So yeah,
I
I
agree.
mean that's a better send off.
Okay, people might come for you for that one, but now they might come for me because my hot take choice is Emma Nelson and Sean Cameron. I, in my mind, see them similar to how I see Edward Cullen and I want to say Kristen Stewart. No, Bella Swan. And how Edward is so like, it's dangerous to love me, but then also like doesn't leave her alone and is like constantly meddling in her life. That's how I feel about Emma Nelson and Sean Cameron. I feel like Sean is constantly like, Emma, you shouldn't be near me, but I'm here. Like, I don't know. That's my take on it. But what do you think about Emma and Sean's relationship dynamic?
Ooh, like the whole thing.
Yeah, maybe the progression of it. Do you think it starts as a healthy dynamic? Because they start pretty young.
They start as children. I mean, they're
Yeah.
12 years old. Um, I think the dynamic. I think over the span of 7 seasons, I feel like I didn't think it was healthy. I
Mm,
didn't. I think especially you can kind of see the evidence in season 3 where Sean's feeling resentment. He's extremely codependent and he wants Emma with him all the time. And she has a lot on her shoulders, a lot on her plate. And he's not really taking the time to try to understand her perspective. He's just upset. And he's kind of building this narrative in his brain that, like, okay, well, she doesn't love me. She's going to leave me. She doesn't want me around. And he's building that, right?
yeah.
And so he's latching on more and she's trying. Like, I think Emma's trying to give it to him, but he isn't getting enough. So then, he feels emasculated in some way, I think, and he starts
Yeah.
gravitating towards people who will give him attention, like Jay. So
Yeah.
he goes to Jay. Jay gives him attention and makes him feel needed. But I just feel like, I don't know. I always sort of felt like he wasn't that into Emma in the early seasons. I almost feel like he thought she was safe. I feel
Mm,
like he thought she was safe. Like she had this innocence about her. And I think he liked that. I think he liked the innocence. I think it made him feel safe. There was almost like, I don't like to say this again, but like a mother son, like a maternal relationship where I think he didn't have his mom around. So I
yeah.
think Emma kind of gave him this like maternal, like, I don't know, like protection
Yeah.
where he felt kind of safe with her. And he felt like, okay, like this is a person who will look out for me and be there for me. And I don't know. I feel like because he didn't have that at home. So I kind of feel like that was one dynamic when they were younger. And but you can even see it when they're older too, though, because like in season 6, he's wanting her to solve his problems,
Yeah.
right? He's wanting her to do the emotional labor. And that's the issue with their relationship is that she holds the majority of the emotional labor and he runs because he doesn't know how to handle conflict.
Mm,
And because he avoids conflict, that's what he does. He'll run. And, Emma calls him out on it, and she's having to carry the emotional burden and the labor of that relationship, which ultimately is not healthy. Um, and strictly, I'll say in season 6, like, I think it was just attraction. They
Yeah.
both got cute.
Yeah.
I mean, they were both cute kids, but they both they both glowed up. So I think
Yeah.
it was mostly just, if I'm just being honest, I think it was attraction.
I agree with you.
Because I'm like, they didn't have much in common
Yeah.
as people. I mean, they have
No similar
um,
interests at all.
none. Let me think. They have nothing. And then,
Nothing.
not to mention, like, it's just nostalgia. I think people are always tied to the nostalgia of they grew up as children and we watched them grow into adults, young adults. And
Yeah.
I'm on that train too. I mean, I think I can buy into it too as a fan. But if I'm looking at this from my coaching perspective, I'm like, no, this is not a healthy relationship dynamic at all. Like,
Yeah.
it's
I'm gonna
very uneven.
take the lessons I've learned in this podcast. Does this mean that Sean Cameron has an avoidant attachment style in relationships?
Yes.
Passed. I did it. I did it. Do you think the school shooting had any effects on his ability to show up in his relationships?
Yes and no.
Mm.
I think he already had that problem.
Mm.
I actually think well, okay. Let me see how I want to answer this. I think before he thought he had issues with abandonment.
Mm.
So he had a fear of, somebody leaving him and he couldn't trust anyone. And then I think after the school shooting, I don't know if he processed it. I don't know what happened in Wasega, but I would say in season 6, he's a little more grounded.
Mm.
He's not, I mean, yes, he does the street race, but I think he's a bit more grounded in reality. Like, I feel
Mm.
like he's a little more even, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
His emotions aren't all over the place. Like, if something sets him off, he doesn't get angry and throw something, is what I
Mm.
mean. Um, so I would say he's a little more like adjusted, but I still think he runs away. So I don't know if the school shooting really had an impact on him as far as how he handles relationships.
Mm.
I think it was just something traumatic that happened and he needed to process it. But I personally don't think it affected his relationship.
Mm. If Sean Cameron and Emma Nelson were sat in front of you and asking for relationship advice, what advice would you give them to work through all these issues they have?
Well, I would tell them it depends on, okay, if I'm looking at them like as an adult, I would
Hmm.
say, okay, you guys have to, you can appreciate growing up together as children, but you're not children anymore. You're
Hmm.
adults now. And so what does your adult relationship look like? What is that dynamic? Right?
Mm.
Um, what do you feel that you have to offer the other person in this adult relationship dynamic? How do you feel you can show up for each other and how can you feel needed? Because in reality, Emma is extremely codependent.
Mm.
Um, she, I would say she's an anxious attachment. And um, because I think she's more anxious leaning, you know, I think she wants like the white picket fence. She wants the serious relationship. She wants him to move in with her. And we would really have to talk about their goals and how they can maybe meet in the middle where they both feel fulfilled.
Mm.
Sean has abandonment issues and he's still working through that. We don't know what happened to Wasega, but he came back and it didn't seem like he rectified things with his parents, which
Yeah.
is sad because Sean deserves a better ending. But it seemed like he didn't, actually make peace with his parents on some level because it didn't seem like he wasn't relying on them for anything. So
Yeah.
and he missed a big chunk of his childhood too, right? So
Yeah.
we'd have to kind of work through his inner child. I'd be like, okay, Sean, what would you say to your inner child? What message can you give to younger Sean, season 1 Sean? And how can you make him feel loved and not rely on Emma over here to carry that emotional burden? Because that's what she's doing
Yeah.
right now. She's carrying your burdens. And if you're going to show up for each other, how can she not carry the load, but you can show up as the adult in the relationship? Because that's the issue. He's not
Yeah.
showing up as the adult.
Yeah,
That's the
absolutely.
underlying. I mean, that would be we would be working to like find the underlying issue, which is that he relies on her to carry the burden, and
Yeah.
then how can they build a future together while having their needs fulfilled? Because he wants to be like strong and independent at this point in his life. He wants to get his GED, when he wants to do things. But
Yeah,
also, how can they cohabitate together, right? So I think
exactly.
there'd be a few steps to get them going, but
You can take a long while
it's
to get there.
possible.
Okay,
It's
I like hearing
possible.
that take. And I think that's such thoughtful advice. I wish I could almost hear Sean Cameron's answer to that, to how he could, show up for his younger self and help him heal that. Now, before we start wrapping up, are there any other characters you'd like to put in the hot seat and give your quick hot take on their relationship styles?
Oh, man. Okay, hold on. Let me think. There's, 20 years of this. Okay, no, 40 years of this stuff.
I know
Um,
one character who could probably use analysis is Zig Novak, but I hate Zig Novak so much that I don't even want to analyze him.
but what if I could make it to where you don't? What if I could change your
Okay,
mind?
hit me, hit me.
All right. So listen, Zig is a very insecure person, okay?
Hmm.
He is deeply
You're gonna make me
insecure.
feel sympathy for Zig Novak. Oh no.
I got you. I got you. You ready? He's a
Yeah.
deeply insecure child. He lost part of his childhood. I think because he was doing a lot of the adult roles. I think he was. I think that he was helping his mom in the store. He was doing things that children don't normally do. I think, growing up in poverty, right? He missed out on a childhood. And, he's very insecure because he is, on the lower side of, the economic world, right? So he doesn't have a lot of money. And I think he relies on relationships to fulfill him,
Mm.
right? He doesn't know how to show up in them because he doesn't love himself. He sees himself as a
Oh
person that
no.
doesn't deserve love. Now, yes, is he conventionally good looking? Yes. So he can get by in the world as a conventionally good looking person,
Hmm.
and he's likable, he's funny, he has some good zingers, but at the end of the day, he doesn't feel intelligent and he doesn't feel like people take him seriously. And
Hmm.
he lost part of his childhood. So, yes, does he make stupid decisions? Yes. But all teenagers do, okay? They all do. It's part of learning. I don't condone cheating. I don't condone some of the things he did, but I think he was just trying to get some of his childhood back. And I also think he was like, I don't think he saw a future for himself, so he was living in the present. That's what I think. And then he, whenever he did latch on to somebody like Maya, because he latched on to her.
Hmm.
I think when he latched on to Maya, there was a nurturing part of her that he couldn't let go of. And so he held on to that for a long time. And then when he felt like he was losing her, he cheated on her.
Yeah. You've made me feel a slight bit of sympathy for Zig Novak.
Right? Oh, dude, I'll
I
take
know
it.
where we're going. Oh, my one of my biggest gripes with Zig is I find that I feel like he is only kind to Maya Matlin when he feels like there's a chance that he can get with her or get in a relationship with her. And even when she
Okay.
has another boyfriend, he's like being kind to her to kind of get into her life. And then when she's like sets those boundaries, he's like, okay, I'm gonna be mean to you and I'm gonna be distant. And that is my one of the reasons why I do not like Zig Novak. I think he just wants to hook up with Maya and is only nice to her whenever he thinks he can make that happen, even if she has a boyfriend. That's what I think.
That's interesting. Okay. I
Yeah.
can see that. And he has boundary issues. I mean, it's addressed
Mm.
quite a few times in the show that he does not have good boundaries and he doesn't listen very well. Um, that's something I could, if I actually worked with Ziv Novak and I had him in a chair, I'd probably be like, okay, we got to work on your boundaries. Like, why do you have boundary issues? Is it because you're afraid of losing people and you feel like you don't know how to give people space?
Yeah.
Right? And where's that come from? So, because he does have that problem, and I do feel like he is mean to her sometimes, and I'm like, okay, but I think it's also a defense mechanism,
Yeah.
not inexcusable. It's inexcusable, but it's a defense mechanism nonetheless.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense.
I feel.
I'm going to flip the script for a minute. Is there a
Oh,
couple on Degrassi that you think is a good example of a healthy relationship dynamic?
a good one. Oh,
Yeah.
okay.
I know we only prepared the bad ones, so I've really put this on you last minute.
No, you're doing great. You know? Okay, this is gonna be a hot take. Well, no, I'm trying to think if they. Okay, we didn't see a lot of them, but I would actually argue Adam and Becky.
I love that answer. Tell me why you think so.
I think, I mean, they seem to have no issues communicating their wants and needs. I feel like Becky did so much in the way of opening her heart and her mind to meet Adam where he was. And that is huge.
Yeah.
To, to question the ideals that you've been ingrained with since childhood and being able to look past them to say, well, I have feelings for this person and I consider he's a guy, so I'm gonna date him, right?
Yeah.
And she she goes for it. I mean, but that's not. Yes, they had like a lot of hills to I guess to walk up, get past, whatever metaphor you want to use.
Yeah.
Um, but I feel like they were more like they weren't passive aggressive. Like Adam never pressured her. He was always there. He was like, okay, take your time, do your thing. I think he just wanted to feel acknowledged,
Yeah.
right? He wanted to feel like, I'm your boyfriend, acknowledge me. But at the end of the day, I mean, she did. And she embraced him and she was like, this is my boyfriend. And, I think at the end of the day, I mean, with an exception of like I feel like they just put drama in that last episode. I think,
Yeah.
uh, I think they mostly had a healthy relationship dynamic. They communicated, they seemed to talk to each other and be on the same page. And, I feel like they were both putting in the effort, which when you're a teenager, that's huge. But it's also as an adult, putting in the effort and showing up as your authentic self and embracing someone for who they are. That's where it starts. I mean, and then they were both self aware enough to be like, okay, this is where I need to come to meet you, right?
Yeah.
And self awareness is where it starts to make change. You can change if you're self aware. And Becky's, you know, Adam had no problem communicating with her in a nice way and being like, hey, maybe think about this fossil here or this rock and say, okay, well, this is, 10,000 years old. Didn't you say the Bible was this old, right?
Yeah.
So, but she was willing to listen, and then he was willing to speak to her in a respectful way and say, hey, maybe look at it from this perspective. And she was like, oh. And the amount that Becky was able to, like, she has introspection. That's what I
Yeah.
love about her character. She really takes the time to think and to process and to show her emotions and show up for people. That's what's great about her character. So I think, I don't know. And then Adam was just always so kind and patient.
Yeah.
And with an exception, I will say, of the last few episodes before he died. But
Yeah. I
overall, I think
really
they're pretty healthy.
I agree. They would be my top pick. And I think especially in contrast to this moment that he just had with Fiona of like her figuring out her identity to now dating someone who's so secure in who he is and
Yes,
his identity. I love seeing that. And my take on it is that I really think that the issues because then Adam gets really jealous over Todd and this issue I think really blows up beyond what we would normally expect from both Adam and Becky. I think they could have resolved it a lot more. I think Becky would have been a lot
oh
more
yeah.
like I don't know, understanding that Adam was so upset about it, maybe more reassuring and less dismissive about it. But I think they
Hmm.
needed to get us to a point where Adam is frantically driving in the woods trying to get in contact with Becky. So they kind of had to throw this
Exactly.
drama in there. That's my take about it. But Adam
I'm chalking
probably
that
should
up to
not have.
writing.
Yeah, that's what I think. I think they had to get there. I think they had a short amount of episodes. They had to make it there. And they kind of flipped the script because in season 12 they end fine and then season 13 it's like okay Jordy's contract
They
is
said
ending
that.
in 8 episodes we've got to like speed run this so that's my take on that.
Oh, I agree wholeheartedly because I think otherwise they had a pretty healthy dynamic. And
Yeah.
I was trying to think. I had one more point, but I can't remember. Um, I just feel like they met each other where they were at, and it's
Yeah.
so important, to show up for your partner and to meet them where they are, but also to take the time to try to understand where they're coming from. And I think they both did that. Like, about the play, Becky got there. She
Yeah.
didn't fully understand, but she was trying to understand, which is huge. Especially, like I said, given her history and how she was raised, that's huge.
Yeah, I agree. Well, what's crazy is you and I have been talking for over an hour. So before we start our wrap up questions, is there anything else you want to say about relationships dynamics on Degrassi?
I just I think Degrassi is the one of the best shows to be able to look at relationship dynamics. It's just I think it's a beautiful coming of age show. It stands the test of time because it's kind of like a time capsule. And you're able to look at these people who have these authentic stories that I think everybody can relate to on some level. It's some part of their life. And you can say, okay, well, yeah, like you can take any of these character dynamics and say, well, yeah, like I've been through that, or I can understand where these people are coming from because I've experienced it, or I know somebody who is. And I think that Degrassi is like the perfect tool to be able to use for like showing couple dynamics and how maybe we can improve language, communication, showing up better for your partner. No one's going to show up perfectly, okay? Like, you know, we don't have therapy lingo all the time. We're not going to be showing up perfectly. But if you can use examples like Degrassi to say, well, this is what you could be doing differently, though, to have a better outcome, right? And I think that's where Degrassi is just one of the best shows to be able to do that and use it as a prime example. And you can use any generation to do it.
Yeah, I agree. They gave us so much lore and so much depth to their characters that you really can get into the meat and potatoes of their relationship dynamics over several years with several characters, with several catalysts behind them. I think this was really fun. And Alexa, I have to say thank you for being such a great podcast guest. As I told you in our pre-interview, this is not a topic I could have done on my own. You've opened my eyes to a whole new way of watching Degrassi, which is one of my favorite things about revisiting the show. And overall, like, thank you for providing such a really cool and interesting topic for my podcast. I appreciate it so much.
I appreciate you having me. This is a true honor. I look up to you. I love your podcast. I've been listening for like 2 years now. So this is a true honor of mine. This is like a, bucket list item for me. So thank you so much for having me and taking the time.
Oh, we have such a healthy relationship dynamic. I love us.
No, of course we do.
I want to know, where can fans find you if they want to find you on social media?
I am on TikTok under my name, Alexa Katchinska. If you can see my name.
It's there.
And I also have my website if you would like to book an appointment with me. I specialize in relationships and with yourself and relationships with others. If you would like to, whether that's looking for advice, whether that you want to, get into couples counseling, whether you're looking to heal from a breakup or heal from a traumatic event, those are my specialties. So my TikTok, Alexa Katchinska, and then my website's on my TikTok.
Hell yeah. And I encourage people to follow you. You're a very kind person. You're very fun to watch on TikTok. And I'm very, very excited to always check in on your journey and see how you're doing.
Oh, God, this has been an honor. Oh, I did want to mention, I do have a project coming up next year. I am going to be releasing a short film about a single mother. Yes, it's going to be a horror movie. It's about a single mother, and she...
This feels like the exclusive drop right here. I'm so excited about this.
Yes, we're going to be filming it next year. It's about a single mother who basically, her son is traumatized. He is experiencing mutism from a traumatic event in the house, and he can't tell his mother what he saw. There's a reason, but he can't tell his mother what he saw in the house. So his mother is trying to investigate and figure out what is going on in this house that she just moved into. And, she realizes her own strength within herself as a single parent and the strength as a woman to be able to defeat the evil that's in her home. So
oh my God.
I'm excited.
Good for you. I'm really proud of you that you're pursuing that project. It's going to be very cool.
Thank you.
The minute I can watch it, I am watching it. That sounds so cool.
It's also LGBTQ+, so we need more of that. We need more.
I know. I can't believe we are two gays who did a whole podcast together and like barely talked about our queerness. It like briefly came up in the Fiona one, but we're both gay. We both love women, and we're here and we're proud of it. And that's why we're so healthy in our relationship dynamics.
Of course.
Well, Alexa, thank you so much for everything. Thank you for signing up as a producer. Again, so grateful for this topic because I could not do this on my own. And this was just overall like really fun to do together. And I'm very, very excited.
I had a flipping blast. Thank you, Jocelyn.
It flew by. No problem. Okay. Have a great night. Bye.
Right, bye. Have a good night.
I have to say a huge thank you to Alexa for joining the Degrassi Kid podcast. That was such a unique point of view and a unique discussion that I'm so excited to have on the podcast. And thank you, Alexa, for sponsoring this episode. It means so much to me. I also want to say a huge thank you to our brand new Patreon subscribers. Those are Nikki, Scotty, Anna, Isabella, Allie, Kimmy, Emily, Mary, Marie, Tess, Ariel, Janet, Becca, Kaylee, Jess, double Jess, I love that, Kira, Maddie, Elise, Dre, Alexa, thank you, Alexa, Ashley, Kat, Kat, Amaya, Kimberly, Stanley, Jess, Lindsay, Anna, Amanda, Amber, and Grace. Thank you so much for joining the Degrassi Kid Patreon. It means so much to me. We also have to shout out our long-term Patreon subscribers, and there's so many of you now. I'm so excited about this. We're saying a thank you to Jolene, Abby, Sarah J, Rachel, Degrassi CSI, Amber, Catherine, Shannon, Emily, Taylor, Christopher, Angelica, Laura, Sarah, Mundoman 333, Legna, Timmy, Sammy, Dave, Brittany, Degrassi Generations Facebook group, check them out on Facebook, Kylia, Stephanie, Becca, Gina, Racine, Megan, Mina, Kristen, Lizzie, Sam, Casey, Bridget, Jessica, Katrina, Nikki, Cosmo, Tani, Laura, Lewis, Jeanette, Nadia, Callie, Blue Estrella, B, Sia, Natalie, Max, Lauren, Tom, Julia, Jill, Degrassi Bumblebee, I love that username, Jenny, Brittany, Carrie, Beck, Brittany, Double Brittany, Randy, Lindsay, Darcy, Alyssa, Kennedy, Kate, Jill, Rogan, Marina, Chrissy, Mix, Lucy, Glenn, Lizzie Games, Samantha, Ashley, Sanita, Emily, Mike, Sarah, Tierney, Lulu, David, Kylie, Jennifer, Felicia, Wild Wallflowers, Anastasia, Olivia, Trevor, Sinner, Benjamin, Drubsy, Sarah, Alyssa, Meredith, Vi, and Rainey. Thank you so much for being members of the Degrassi Kid Patreon. I could not do this without you. And thank you for watching the very first episode in 2026 of the Degrassi Kid